All right, what's going on, guys? So you probably clicked on the video because of the title, and I'm gonna go all over that. So today's video, what we're gonna be going over is how you can start drifting in an s197 Mustang or SN95, whatever you wanna be. It's pretty much the same platform. Chassis is a little bit different, but suspension setup is still the same. It's completely the same. I might be wrong about a little bit of suspension, but S197, the suspension is a little bit more basic than the SN95 and New Edge Mustang. But let's go ahead and get to that. So this is my car. This is actually my drift car. I've had this car for a whole almost 2 years now. So I've drifted it a season and a half so far, and it has done great. What do you need in order to drift in a Mustang? So I'm going to tell you right now, you do not need absolutely anything to drift a Mustang, as long as it's manual and has rear-wheel drive. Even if it's a V6, it's a little bit harder to actually drift a V6 Mustang, but because you're gonna have to push it so hard, you don't have as much torque as a GT. But anyways, away from that, stop rambling about that. But what essentially do you need to drift a Mustang? So what you need to drift a Mustang is really, there's not that much stuff, like we already went over. It needs to be a manual, obviously. You can drift an automatic, but you need a manual. If you're gonna learn how to drift, you need a manual, and you need to know how to learn how to at least drive stick. The other thing is tires, some form of spare tires, or what I run on this car right now until I buy new tires and new wheels is the stock V6 16-inch wheels, and I use tires for those because they are a lot cheaper. And this car is only pushing like maybe 300 horsepower at the most, and I don't need that wide of a tire. So right now I run like a 225 50 16, I think, in the back, and then the front I just run whatever's sticky or bigger than the front or the back setup. So you don't need a whole lot. So you need a manual, and it needs to be some type of rear-wheel drive car, which we have a Mustang, and it has essentially 300 horsepower. So we're already good on power and everything. So can you go drift a Mustang stock? Yes, you can drift a Mustang stock. You don't have to do anything to it. And that's essentially what I did for a whole year. This is before I got into drifting. I just started drifting, and from all my friends telling me whenever I start drifting, just drive this car stock for a whole year and then see how you like it and then modify it afterwards. So what I did to this car first was, when I first bought the car, I wasn't planning on drifting it, but I accidentally just got into it. It kind of just fell into my lap, having best friends that drift or whatever, and just ended up liking it. But anyways, the first thing that I did to this car, the absolute first thing I did to this car is bought lowering springs. That's literally all I bought to go drift. So when I bought lowering springs, it dropped the car, I want to say 1.5 inches, like all four corners. So this isn't making the car any stiffer by means. It's still going to have body roll side to side, but it's not going to have as much. This car already comes with sway bar in the back and the rear. If it's a GT, has bigger brakes in the front, so you can't run the 16s in the front, you can only run 17s. But the car already comes pretty much accessible to drifting. You have an LSD, you don't have to weld the diff or anything. You're already good. So in that sense, you're good. So what I did for a whole year is I drove this car just how it is. I didn't really get a whole lot of grip in the front, and that's one thing that I'm planning on doing and buying here soon, probably in the next couple of weeks, but it's some big meteor tires. So what I ran on this car, and I didn't even buy brand new tires when I first started drifting this car. When I drifted this car, all I did was go to the junkyard, buy some junkyard tires, try not to find the dry rot ones, but I bought junkyard tires, and that's how I drove this car. And that's how I learned. So yes, you can learn on that, but what helps me a lot is, I'll show you in a minute what exactly helps me versus just driving the car, because you're not going to get seat time all the time. And this is an investment. If you're really planning on doing this, this is an investment. It's kind of expensive. It's not super expensive. You can get into it cheaply, but I'm going to show you exactly what I do to actually be able to drift all the time and not have to spend any money. And this essentially, just right here, is how I get all my drifting in. So I have the PC build. Again, when I'm saying it's not super expensive, but this is an investment if you're going to be drifting. Some people think the sim doesn't work. I think otherwise. Everybody that I drive with drive the sim, and it comes when you drive the sim and go to the car, the only thing that you're missing is the inertia part where the actual sim is moving around. You can buy the big sim chairs. They're a couple $1,000s to actually have the motion, but you don't need all that. So what did I start with? I did not start with this sim setup. So I did not exactly start with everything I have right here. So I didn't have the actual sim chair. I didn't have the Moza. I didn't have the energy seat in here. I didn't have the actual cockpit, and I didn't have a PC. I did have the monitor. And what I did start out with the steering wheel is right here. A Logitech G29. That's what I started on with the PS5. I started this drifting journey because I didn't even start drifting. I started on the sim. So I actually bought a sim because I was interested into it. So what you're now kind of telling me is, why do I need to buy a sim? Not telling you have to buy a sim. You can use your car that you already have right now, your Mustang. You can go do donuts somewhere illegally, but it does cost a lot of money to do these drift events, and that's why I'm telling you that this is a cheaper alternative. Cheaper. When I say cheaper, I mean through the whole year or the whole season that you're drifting. The PC, I paid, I think, $300, and that I got that really cheap because I got it at a game exchange, traded my PS5 in. I got the monitor for, I think, $150, and I actually bought, or I got the Logitech for my wife for Christmas, and I was just using it on a desk. I had an old desk. I'll throw up a picture here in just a second, but I used to ride on this desk that I'm showing right now. I actually use my Logitech on that. So now that I have this set up, my wife actually bought me this Moza again for this year. So this next Christmas, when I really got into it, she bought me this Moza R5. Came with the pedals. I bought the Thrustmaster shifter for $50. And then this cockpit I actually got on sale at Micro Center for $150. So yes, for a total of right here, what you're looking at, this is probably, I want to say, around a $1,200 setup, which is super inexpensive when it comes to actually sim builds. And I can go more in depth in the sim stuff, but I'm going to kind of stop talking about this because this is just one investment that if you do want to get in drifting, this is the best thing to do for yourself because you can get all that practice and, you know, get seat time essentially if you do have a cockpit. But, you know, this is the chair that I actually used whenever I was doing the sim drifting, and then I just had my actual thing mounted to the table and then my pedals on the ground. That's how all my friends do it. I wanted a cockpit, so I bought this a couple weeks ago because I've been wanting this, and it just helps me out better in my drifting, so I'm not moving all over the place in that actual office chair. All right, so now that we're away from all the sim stuff, if y'all want another video on the sim setup and all that stuff, we'll go over that. I'll even make videos of me sim driving, just showing you how easy it is to get into it. My wife is actually doing it right now. Not at this moment, but when she has free time at home, she's actually linking the track. So anybody can do it. She doesn't even know how to drive manual. She drove my car a week ago and was able to drive the car. So like, she's never driven manual. She practiced on the sim, got in my car, and was able to figure out everything and drive it by herself. So it does work. As much as people want to say it doesn't work, it does work. You know, and certain people might not like it, but usually if you start drifting before you're using the sim, then you'll never like the sim. If you start the sim and then drifting, then, you know, it'll work in its favor. But anyways, we'll kind of go over the build list on the car right now and what I have on the car, you know, for me to actually start this next season, and what I put on during the season of last year whenever I was drifting. Well, obviously the first thing that I did, my wife got me this for Christmas. I love my wife. She does everything for me. She supports my habit of doing all this stuff, and I'm glad she does that. But she bought me this awesome Grip Royal steering wheel, special edition Forsberg steering wheel. Got me that steering wheel. And then that's really, I drifted for, I think, 3 events with this. This is all I had, a steering wheel and lowering springs that were already in the car. So again, you don't need that stuff. It's very minimal. What I do suggest that when you do get a stock car and you want to drift, the first things I would do is get a steering wheel and obviously seats. So obviously my other seat is in the house because you just seen it on my sim. I don't drive this car a whole lot unless I do some sim driving, but I search Marketplace, I scour Marketplace, I look at Marketplace, and I found both of these NRG seats, brand new, not used. There's a little tearing on it, I think from him cutting the box open. 50 minutes from my house. I drove in the rain to get these. It was crazy, but it was like freaking torrential rain going on. I got these seats both for $200, both of them. One seat is $280 on Amazon. I got both of the seats for $200. Guy was just wanting to get rid of them. So this is what I ran with for the whole year. I had the lowering springs, steering wheel, and the seat. The reason I say the seat is I didn't get the seats till almost the end of the season, And honestly, I wish I would have got them the first thing. The reason I say that is I have speakers in the door. Yeah, I can get door cards, whatever. But I like my music whenever I'm driving. You're having to brace yourself in a stock seat. The seats in the Mustang are good, but they're leather and you're sliding around. You're having to brace yourself so well. These seats have bolstering. So when you're sitting in this bucket seat, you're not sliding all the way around. Your knees don't hurt after an event. It just makes everything better. And the steering wheel itself, all I have on it is some Amazon hub and then an NRG hub adapter to kind of straighten my wheel because the grip roll bolt pattern is a little bit different. So that's all I have for the interior. The shift knobs from American Muscle, I bought that just because I wanted a new shift knob. So on to the outside of the car. What have I done to the outside of the car? To be honest, power wise, I haven't done anything. I did a muffler delete and then I did a cat delete. And the only reason I did that, not to be obnoxious and loud, is when you're driving out there and there's a bunch of other cars loud as hell with drifting for some reason, every single car has to be loud. And I like it, it's cool, but this car isn't super loud because it has an H pipe, so it dumbs it down a little bit. I don't have an X pipe and making it screaming. Plan on in the future, but right now, this car is bone stock other than exhaust, and that's it. So with the exhaust, the only reason I straight piped it is so when you're driving out there, there's a bunch of loud cars and you need to hear what your RPM is at. When you're around a car or tandeming with somebody and your car isn't louder than theirs, or their car's louder than yours, or your car's stock for some reason and their car's loud as hell, you're gonna have to see your RPM tag. You're not gonna really know if your car's bogging down, and that's the reason that I did that. I know other people can say, well, I can hear my car, I know this, blah, blah, blah. That's just why I did that. That's the only reason I did that. So again, you can look under the hood, everything's stock. This right here, I need to get a stock for my power steering. The one thing bad about these Mustangs, S197s, honestly, big body cars with big V8s, is the power steering. Power steering gets really hot. I freaking hot lap this car all day long and it doesn't overheat. And the reason it doesn't overheat now is because I put that big ass radiator. Funny story, when you buy a Mustang GT and if it has a stock radiator, the radiator is a quarter size of this radiator. So this is a 3-row radiator. The one I had was a 1-row radiator. It's this thick. It's an inch thick. This is, I want to say like 3 or 4 inches thick. So it's a big radiator. Makes it run a lot cooler. Haven't done an intake. I don't think I need to do an intake. I'm not going to do any power mods on this car until the actually 3rd season I do. So if this engine lasts longer than 2 years or 2.5 years, whatever it is, that would be great. That'd be awesome. You know, the 3 valves are pretty reliable engines, but they have their issues. And when you're pushing a motor that hard, you know, you'll have situations where the motor might blow up or something like that. So if this motor ever does blow up, I have plans on actually putting a Coyote in it, or if I could, for the same price, find a built 3 valve and throw like a supercharger on it, I'd probably do that. But the Coyote just cheaper. It's cheaper for the power. So like you can literally put bolts-ons and make 500 horsepower, you know, basically what a 3 valve makes with a supercharger. So that's the whole thing with the engine. So that's all the modifications with any of this stuff. This again, this is just a solution right now. It's just a zip tie with a rag. It works. In the meantime, it keeps the power steering from overflowing and getting on everything. And the radiator keeps me cool. The only thing I have to do next is actually hardwire the fan to keep the fan running, because it does overheat on hot days, especially when I'm hot lapping. But hot lapping 10 laps in a row, your car is going to overheat. You're getting that coolant really, really hot. As for that, those are really the modifications. The one big modification that I recently just did, and I'll throw up a picture, and you can make fun of me, but they still work. So, with a drift car, everybody talks about angle kits, blah, blah, blah. This car does not have an angle kit on it. The only thing I have done is taking the actual rack limiters out, and that's given me enough angle for what I need. This car comes with plenty of angle, and that's coming from my best friend that drives the E30 with angle kit. He says this car has plenty of angle. So I'm not going to worry about that for a while, because angle kits are expensive. They can run up to $1,500 for this car, and the cheapest I think are like $1,200. So they are pretty high. So what I recently did was put coilovers on. What kind of coilovers did I put on? Anybody can guess? Pause the video and guess in the comments. No, they aren't BCs, but they are max peating rods. So I have a buddy that runs these on his car. He snapped a couple of them driving really hard. He has a Mustang as well. But again, we're doing this on a budget. So with the max speeding rods, yeah, they're like $250, but $250 versus $1,200 BC coilovers, I'm willing to take the risk and try to figure out if they last long or whatever. Recently, I've just been daily driving it every once in a while, driving the car, taking it out, maybe, taking it into town or whatever. But drives fine, has 25 or 24 adjustable things on the actual, it's dampening adjusting, what I'm trying to say. But it's dampening adjusting, coilovers work good, it's really stiff, and I haven't taken it to an event yet, so when I do take it to an event, I will give some type of review on the max speeding rods because I've had some before, but I just daily drove with them. They were really bumpy, and they were in a daily car. I took them out because I didn't like them because I was daily driving the car. It's the only reason I took them out. But with this car, sits in the garage. I go to drift events with it, so I'm not going to be worrying about that. Now, driving them just to town, like 2-hour drive back and forth and stuff, they ride good. Over big bumps. They are bumpy as hell because they are coilovers. Every coilover is bumpy, but these are just a little bit more bumpier because they are a quarter of the price of what the leading market is, like on Drift HQ, where you get a set of BC coilovers are $1,295, which I think is super ridiculous. This car is not worth more than like $6K. I'm not gonna put freaking $1,500 unless I keep breaking these. But these come with a year warranty, so every time they break, I just get a new cooler. So it's not that big of a deal. So max speeding rods, if I were to get some type of sponsor through them, then I'd probably run their more expensive ones. These are like the 250. I got them on sale, so they were 300, but I got them for 250 with all the sales that they had, which was crazy. And then right when I bought them the next day, they went up to like 320. So their prices kind of fluctuated a little bit. It's kind of weird, but they have these new V7 or something like that coilovers that are these blue coilovers. They're like $400. If Max Speeding Rod was willing to send me some, I would try them out. I'm not going to buy them unless these run really good for a whole year. I might honestly, upgrade or whatever. But until then, I'm going to run these until they break or whatever they need to do. So back to the car. What do we need in order to drift? We need a manual. Doesn't matter if it's a V6 or V8 like we've already talked about. And it needs to be rear-wheel drive. With an LSD or welded diff. Welded diff is just an extra step. You can have any rear-wheel drive car and make it a drift car because you can weld the diff, but this car is easy because I bought it pretty much stock and was able to drift it pretty much stock with lowering springs. So it doesn't take a whole lot to get these cars to drift. This platform, to be honest, it's starting to become a good platform to drift because the 240s, don't get me wrong, it's a cool drift chassis. It's a really cool drift chassis, but they're overrated. They don't have parts for them, accessible unless you buy them from an expensive company. This car, I can go to AutoZone and pretty much rebuild the engine. Frat AutoZone. So that's what makes it so accessible. My best friend has an E30. I bring him up a lot because he's the one that got me into drifting, but he has an E30, and the parts for his car are so unreadily available. He has to order them in advance. If he knows he's going to break something, he needs to order two, so he's able to have them at the track. This car, if there's any AutoZone around, I guarantee you I can buy any part for this car. That's what makes this car so great when you're drifting, road racing, anything. In our case, this is drifting. That's all I do. And I'll make another video for this vehicle in the back because on my channel, I actually have a tow rig, but I sold mine, and this is the one I got next. So we'll make another whole video on that and the reason that I sold the other truck to get this one. So just kind of brush that to the side a little bit. And that in the background, kind of take that away. But this car, again, if y'all have any questions or comments or regards, please comment in the comment section. If you have a 3-valve or S195 new edge Mustang, whatever, I love the drift community, especially with the Mustangs, because the dudes that get in the Mustang drift community, if I'm wrong or right, pretty much have always been in the drifting community, but were never wanting to get into it, I guess, essentially, or never thought of getting into it until they had somebody kind of tell them, hey, you have a car, drift it, whatever. But anyways, that's my video of the car. If y'all want another video more in-depth on all the stuff that I have done to this car, I will go over another video. This video is just more of like, can you drift a Mustang stock? Can you use it stock? Can you even drift a Mustang right when you bought it from the dealership or bought it wherever or bought it, marketplace or whatever? Essentially, that's where I bought this car. Yes. Would you drift a brand new S650? No. Would you drift a 20-year-old S197? Yes, indeed. And this is actually exactly 21 years old, or 20 years old. because it's a 2025. So the car is old, but it's still readily parts available. Again, I'm gonna quit rambling now, but if you have any questions, regards, whatever, please leave them down in the comment. Please leave a subscribe button if you're done, or if you really like this channel. I'm gonna start uploading more videos of me drifting. If you want to go follow my Instagram, it'll be down in the description. It's _Exhaustin _. They took Exhaustin for some reason, but I have that. I post some of my drifting videos on there. I used to have a TikTok. If you still want to see my videos, it's Austin Coleman 84. But I accidentally deleted the app. Or I didn't accidentally. I got pissed because they stopped using the app, or the app, you know, what the United States did with it. And then I deleted it, and now I don't have it. So anyways, if you liked the video, please leave a like, leave a comment. Peace, guys.